Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to C's Listening Room. As you know, I'm C, and today I had a bunch of allergies that sidelined me, and just out on the road, and traffic is horrible. I don't know where everyone's going on a Sunday, but I almost missed my street. I almost couldn't turn down my street because nobody would let me over to merge into the proper lane. It is what it is. I don't know what it is. I use that term a lot. I say it is what it is a lot. And I use it, but I don't really like the term because we still don't know what it is. We don't know what it is that is. It is what it is, but what is it? It is... I don't know where I'm going with this, but today we're going to talk about another album that I dug out. This one has been discussed by a lot of people. It's pretty well known. It's definitely a classic. Probably not anything that you're going to take away something from today, because it's just not it's not one of my obscure or rare or whatever albums, but this is Megadeth, Countdown to Extinction. And this came out in 1992. And at that time, I was more into classic rock. I listened to a lot of 70s music, late 60s, pretty much always listened to the classic rock station. And 92 was about the time that Z-Rock came to Detroit. Now, some of you may not remember Z-Rock, maybe you didn't have it in your market, but Z-Rock originally started out as a satellite-based station out of Texas. And they would get a frequency on the radio dial and somehow broadcast via satellite to a localized frequency. With us, it was 102.7. So Detroit had 102.7. They had, I think, a local station that it would transmit from somehow, but it was all basically out of Texas with the Z-Rock personalities and all that. And when I started listening to that station when it came out, just because I wanted to just get a taste of some new music and see what was out there, since I was mostly used to listening to the 70s stuff with the stale playlist. And they were playing a lot of grunge music. They were playing metal, but I would say definitely my interest in heavy metal started with 102.7 when it was the national Z-Rock. Later on, it became more localized. They had all local personalities, and they got rid of a lot of the metal, and they were playing like hard alternative. But I don't know if the playlist was like an actual Z-Rock playlist, or if the local Z-Rock affiliates that broadcasted locally had artistic control. I think it was probably a national playlist that local personalities and local talents would just basically talk around. I don't know the politics of it, but I wasn't really familiar with thrash metal. And at the time, I still thought that glam rock was metal. Now we consider it hard rock or whatever, or pop metal. But at the time, I still thought that was heavy metal. And they were playing a lot of grunge, and they were playing a lot of glam rock. I really wasn't familiar with thrash metal. I just knew it was heavier than regular metal. I didn't really know what it was, other than Megadeth was one of the thrash bands. And then this album hit, and Z-Rock started playing quite a few of these songs. Foreclosure of a Dream, Sweating Bullets, let's see, Symphony of Destruction. Those three songs were actually in pretty heavy rotation. And when I heard them, I'm like, okay, so this is what Megadeth sounds like. This is what thrash metal sounds like. Actually, though, this is kind of tame for what Megadeth sounded like. For even metal was the extreme ends of metal. It was a lot more. Metal was a lot more extreme than this. Megadeth actually started out a lot more, a lot heavier, faster, and I would say chaotic than this. This is actually pretty pretty tame for how they used to be. This is the classic lineup, though. This is with Marty Friedman on lead guitar. And when he and they had an album before this, the Rust in Peace, Hangar 18, and Tornado of Souls, some of the real notable songs on that. Killer lead guitar work. Marty Friedman really basically proved himself on that album. But they went from being like this, the morbid band is all about being fast and being shocking, to kind of toning it down a little bit to actually send a message about something. They actually had something to say. They were actually intelligent guys that wanted to write some serious music. And that's kind of where this came in. So I kind of came into the band and found out about them and started hearing them when they were getting to be in a more serious phase. Guitar solos are not quite as wild as they were previously. Some people will say Tornado of Souls off the previous album has the greatest thrash metal or greatest metal solo ever. It's a good solo. I don't know if it's one of the best. I mean, you're talking about a genre that's dependent on guitar solos, that basically lives by them. But some will say that Marty Friedman's solo in that song is among the best. This album has a more serious side to them. Did a little bit, but it's still got all the elements of thrash metal. I'll say what I like about this older thrash metal, what I like about a lot of thrash metal is it's very percussive. A lot of the drummers have a double bass drum. So there'll be two bass drums, and then they'll have a lot of drums built around the bass drums. So they can hit the toms and the cymbal or a snare and the cymbal with their hands, and then their feet would be pounding out an additional beat or rhythm on the bass drum. So they could do actually two different beats or two different rhythms with the drum set at the same time. But then you have the rhythm guitarist coming in that will also duplicate one of those at the same time. So as the drummer is basically hammering out two different beats, the rhythm guitarist will join the drummer and oftentimes will play a rhythm that matches what the drummer is doing. And so you've got basically the rhythm guitarist acting not only as a guitarist, but as a second drummer. It's hard to describe, but if you listen to a lot of this music, you'll hear the rhythm guitar is almost like a third beat to the music. And so I like that. And a lot of times that's where you get the jackhammer styled rhythms with thrash metal. It's very percussive, and where even the guitar works almost alongside the drummer, instead of the drummer and the guitarist being two separate entities that have different roles in the band. The rhythm guitarist is kind of that middle point where it's not just the guitar, it's also playing what the drummer is playing. And so you get that real solid percussion in there. And that's one thing I like. I like good soloing. I mean, there's like the tapping and all that, and I like the fast soloing. On a technical level, it's impressive. And that's why I like Marty Friedman as a guitarist on this album, because he does it more tastefully. It's not just all about speed. It's not all just about him trying to show how many dive bombs he can do on the whammy bar. It's one of the few thrash albums I've listened to where I can actually hear blues structures in some of his solos. I mean, he's not playing like a blues man is. He's not playing the same kind of like hollow body guitar straight through an amp, clean sound like a guy like B.B. King did. But you can hear some of that same style with he's got the pointy guitar with the distortion and the overdrive all turned up, but the structures that he's playing are very similar to what you might hear an old blues guy from the 60s or even the 50s playing. He just brought into that heavy metal sound. So I think his playing is much better than a lot of other guys where it's all just about acrobatics. I mean, what he's doing is a little bit more tasteful in my opinion. And he does a lot of the heavy metal techniques, but he does it still with a noticeable blues structure and style, at least in certain parts of the solo. So it's got all the classic elements of thrash metal, not overdone, done right, but they've got messages. Apparently, Foreclosure of a Dream, one of the biggest songs on this album, was inspired by one of the band members' fathers losing his farm to foreclosure. That inspired the song Foreclosure of a Dream with the kind of political, social lyrics. Song Sweating Bullets is basically schizophrenia. It's about schizophrenia. It's a man talking to himself. Kind of like I'm doing right now. I'm talking into a phone. So maybe not. But they're actually touching on some very serious topics while playing some more accessible thrash. It's not real into the realms of death metal and black metal and all that other stuff. You can understand what they're saying. The music is intelligent. The lyrics are intelligent, but there's still a little bit of that goofiness and the silliness and stuff that made thrash metal fun. And it's not so overbearing. It's not hitting you over the head and making you feel guilty or feel preachy. It's serious. They have a point, but they still make the music, I don't know if I could say lighthearted, but it's just not so serious that it doesn't depress you. So this is thrash metal done right. And what can I say? I liked it when I first bought it. When I first got this, I'm like, yeah, I got some thrash metal now. Now I got something, and I thought it was something cool to add to my music collection. I could add some thrash to it. Now, obviously, you got this poor guy here. That's definitely some thrash metal imagery. This guy, it's nothing but skin and bones, and Megadeth's got the heavy metal writing, but it's not the real extreme writing that you can't read. So, like the death metal bands have. It's got a nice little, very nice booklet in here with the band members and their. I mean, this is a well-done booklet. This is definitely a more professional. It's not a real underground album. This is definitely intended for a wider audience. They definitely wanted to bring this music more into the mainstream. Keep it true to the thrash metal ethics, but, sound-wise, stylistically, but make it so that more people would hear it and appreciate it and hear what they had to say. They wanted that message to be heard. They had to make the sound a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more radio friendly to get it out there, to get that message out. It worked. It's a classic album. It's got the classic lineup. Menza's a great drummer. Ellison's a great bass player on this. Again, they've had critically acclaimed lead guitar there from Friedman. Dave Mustaine's a silly guy. He's a strange guy. His voice takes some getting used to. I think it works on this album. I think it works on this material. I've just come to accept it. I've come to accept his voice and say, yep, that's the voice of Megadeth. They went even more mainstream after this and started exploring other styles of metal. They toned the thrash down even more for euthanasia. There's some really good stuff on there. There's some great songwriting on that album. It's not as much of a thrash album. And I've come to find out that there's a lot heavier stuff out there than this album. But this holds up. It's not too extreme. It's not a real sellout. It's just right. And I've never heard a real metalhead complain about it, saying, oh, that's not heavy enough. Consensus generally is that it's a classic in the genre. And I was working in a machine shop 2 years ago, and I wanted something to keep me alert, to keep me awake, to keep me focused. That was energetic, so I put this one on my phone. I listened to this in its entirety as I was working at I was doing a tabletop job, doing some shipping and receiving type work, and doing some packing of parts. And so I put this on my phone on YouTube. I listened to it in its entirety. It worked great. This is still, if you work in a shop environment, if you work in an environment where some, seriously, still going through some allergies here, where some real heavy music might really help you out. If you need something that's really driving and really moving, it gets you going, really motivating music. Pardon me. This album still works. This album really, it got me through the shift. And I've listened to it again when I was working at another industrial type job. I put this on, and it got me through the shift. I mean, this will, if you need that music that's heavy, that just it gets you going, this is a perfect one for that. And I listened to it I listened to it at work. I listened to it in the car. For that musical caffeine, this is a perfect album. I'll agree, it's a classic. Even if you're not really into the real extreme ends of metal, you should listen to it, because it gets you to at least understand the basic principles of thrash metal without being too extreme. And it's something that has a message in it. Usually a warning about where we're headed as a planet and as a people. That certainly doesn't hurt to be heard. And it's packaged in a nice, sleek package. Helps you get to know who these guys are. The good artwork in there, and really a classic album. Even if you're not into metal, you should listen to this one. 5 stars out of 5 stars for Countdown to Extinction. Thanks for watching. Sorry about my allergies. I'll be feeling better next time. Catch you later.